Your club shaft is across the line at the top of the swing and you'd like to get it into a more neutral position. There are a couple of things we need to check first to make sure we're choosing the right way to improve your golf swing. The first one is simply swing length, as this can create a bit of an illusion. If we take the club up to the top of the swing and we get it onto a neutral angle, but we keep it quite short, it gives the appearance of being laid off. However, if I simply lengthen the swing along that same plane, it does appear that the club shaft moves into a more across the line position. But this is simply due to swing length. So unless you want to shorten the swing, you need to live with the fact that it looks like it's a little across the line. If your swing length is an appropriate length, and you can still see that the shaft is across the line, we now look at wrist angles. So if we get to the top of the swing, and we can see that the lead wrist is particularly cupped, that's the reason for the shaft being across the line. And if we can simply flatten that wrist, you can see how the shaft angle changes. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to focus on the lead wrist to make that change. You could focus on the trail wrist instead. So at the top of the swing, your right wrist will be reasonably flat and your left wrist will be reasonably bent. And if we reverse that by bending the right wrist backwards, you will take the club shaft from across the line to being more neutral. This means that your key focus on your golf swing is that the right wrist, as it starts to hinge, hinges backwards as opposed to staying quite straight. If you can incorporate this feeling of the right wrist hinging backwards, you will successfully change that shaft angle. Now, if you find that the left wrist is reasonably flat already and you still have the shaft across the line, now that's to do with forearm rotation. So at the top of the swing, if I rotate my forearm in a way that I can see my logo appear if I'm looking into a mirror, the club shaft is going to move with it. So by rotating the forearm, I can get the club shaft into an across the line position. If I simply rotate my forearm in a way that I'm now hiding the logo on my glove, the club shaft is moving around to a more neutral position. So it's the rotation of this forearm that we need to look at as opposed to the hinging of the wrists. As I said with a mirror, one way to do it would be to swing up to the top and get the feeling that you're trying to hide that logo on the glove, or you're trying to show yourself the fingers. Another part to look at would be the club shaft. So if I grip down so that my right hand is on the shaft and my left hand is on the grip, as we swing to the top, we can try and point the end of the grip out in front of us as opposed to behind us, which is where it would be if the shaft is across the line. So take the setup, swing to the top, and get the feeling that you're trying to point that grip out in front of you. If we can diagnose the correct reason for the shaft being across the line, we can choose the correct solution and we can fix the problem easily.